Hello, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to Self-Worth Saturday. So in Self-Worth Saturday, I like to share with you guys a topic, my thoughts on that topic, maybe some personal experiences or some action steps, some journal prompts, a weekly challenge, and an oracle card reading. So if you are new, that is kind of the rundown. If you see a live chat box available to you, that is because this video, while pre-recorded, is premiering on YouTube. It's a fun feature that just lets me have some interaction with you guys when this video first goes up on YouTube. So with that out of the way, this week's topic is going to be all about sitting with discomfort. Now, before we jump into this week's topic, let's talk about last week. So last week we were talking about how to stop living in the past, and our challenge was to practice 3 minutes of mindfulness, just focusing on your breath or the sounds in your room or around you for 3 minutes every single day, just to practice getting into the present moment. How did you guys do last week? I did not do 3 minutes of mindfulness meditation every single day, but I did practice some full counted breathing. So for me, this is where I will inhale for a few counts, hold for a few counts, exhale for a few counts, hold again for a few counts, and then just continue that cycle. It's a way to slow the breathing and bring myself into the present, but I did not set the 3-minute timer and practice the full-on 3-minute meditation. But I'm curious if you guys did that this week. If you did, how did it go for you? Let me know in the comments down below or in the live chat if you're in the live chat right now watching this video. So let's talk about this week's topic, and it is a doozy. I actually want to start us off with a couple of quotes just to sort of set the tone for what is happening with my hair. It's just like on Glide. I just have to like check my hair. Anyway, I'm going to start us off with a few of my favorite quotes about discomfort just to kind of set the tone. I think I just said that and I'm being repetitive, and it's okay. We're just going to roll with it. So the first one, be not afraid of discomfort. If you can't put yourself in a situation where you are uncomfortable, then you'll never grow, you will never change, and you'll never learn. Jason Reynolds. Here's another one. I've spent a lot of years trying to outrun or outsmart vulnerability by making things certain and definite, black and white, good and bad. My inability to lean into the discomfort of vulnerability limited the fullness of those important experiences that are wrought with uncertainty. Love, belonging, trust, joy, and creativity, to name a few. That one is Brené Brown. Discomfort is the price of admission to a meaningful life. Susan David. And life begins at the end of your comfort zone. Neil Donald Walsh. We've probably heard some of these quotes before, especially that life begins at the end of your comfort zone quote. The reason this is such a unifying theme is because so many of us struggle with those moments of discomfort, because those moments of discomfort are where our lessons in life are. Those are our opportunities and our doorways to personal growth, expansion, personal evolution, and all of the other good stuff that comes along with getting outside of your comfort zone. So let's define sitting with discomfort for the purpose of this discussion. I'm going to be pointing out or talking about the type of discomfort associated with non-physical discomfort. So emotional discomfort, the discomfort associated with trying new things or being in the unknown, or just being with difficult experience and not just trying to make it go away. To me, anytime you're not trying to claw your way back into your comfort zone, you are sitting with discomfort. When you can recognize that you're having a difficult moment and sit with it instead of just trying to make it go away, avoid it, or ignore it, you're sitting with discomfort. Every time that you step intentionally outside of your comfort zone, you're sitting with discomfort. I think that in order to better frame this discussion, I'd like to talk about some words that might describe what it looks like when you're not sitting in discomfort. Escapism. This is when something you're experiencing is uncomfortable, so you engage in an activity that makes it impossible for you to focus on the discomfort that's around you. Fix-it mode. This is one we'll be talking about because this is one I am so familiar with. Fix-it mode is when you're trying to make discomfort go away sort of forcibly. Something happens, it brings up discomfort, and you try to manage, micromanage, or in other words, force the discomfort to go away on your terms. Wallowing. This is a way where we sort of it's kind of funny that we would have wallowing in not sitting with discomfort, but wallowing is a way to focus on beating yourself up instead of actually sitting with the lesson or the information and using it as a platform for growth. But wallowing is something that I used to do a lot, so I'm really familiar with that particular method. Avoidance. I think all of us do this. This is when you pretend there is no discomfort, everything is just fine, and you're just going to put your attention elsewhere. And procrastination, which is similar to avoidance, just different flavors of the same thing. We know what procrastination is. It's when we know we're being called to step outside of our comfort zone. We know that the next step on our path is in front of us. We know even oftentimes what that step is, and we just kind of put it off because it's outside of our comfort zone. So what does discomfort have to teach you? Discomfort is a teacher. Discomfort is the clue by four moments in your life where you literally have the universe smacking upside your head going, pay attention. There's something here for you. There's something where you can grow. There's something for you to learn. There's something for you to experience. This is what you're meant to do. And in my opinion, it's where the hardest growth is, but also the most meaningful and the most lasting. I think that the more that you look at the experiences of discomfort in your life, the more you recognize that it's not that sort of nurturing, take you by the hand, gently lead you into personal growth kind of lesson. It's the like boot you out of the nest kicking and screaming kind of lesson. So that's why it's uncomfortable. We're being just like the little baby bird whose mom is like, nope, it's time, out you go. A lot of times our discomfort experiences are like that. There are moments that challenge us, and those are the moments where we have an opportunity to step up. I think that there's two real kinds of discomfort that we experience, which is something that I've mentioned or hinted at already. There's the discomfort that happens to us. These are moments we just find ourselves in and we're uncomfortable and we want them to stop. And there's a whole lot of examples of these sorts of discomfort, and I'm going to get into some of my experiences in a moment, but that's one type of discomfort. And then another type of discomfort is the discomfort that we choose to enter into when we step outside of our comfort zone, when we make steps to try something new, to do something new, to experience something new, to learn something new. And whenever we step into the unknown, there's an element of discomfort. Whenever we step away from what we understand to be the status quo in any situation, relationship, or part of our life, we're stepping into discomfort. So discomfort that happens to us is like those clue by four moments I told you about. It's like when something happens and you're faced with an immediate and unexpected moment or time period of discomfort. They're not pleasant a lot of times, but if you hang out in these moments, if you let yourself experience them, massive growth is possible. The discomfort that we seek is any time, like I said, that we step consciously outside of our comfort zone. So why is it that we don't sit with discomfort? Because it's uncomfortable. I mean, I think it's human nature to try to avoid uncomfortable things. Sometimes and oftentimes, actually, the path that is, what is the metaphor I'm looking for? The path most traveled or the easiest path is not necessarily the path where there's the most growth. You can keep walking the same rut over and over and over again and just deepen that same rut in your life, and then guess what? You're in a rut. And getting out of that rut can be really, really challenging. And the more that you stay in your comfort zone, the more you wear that rut into the ground of your life and you just keep treading the same path over and over again. This is where feelings like we're spinning our wheels come from. This is where we get stuck and we're like, why am I still in the same situation I was in 5 years ago, 10 years ago, longer? When we're not able to get out of that discomfort, we just end up in the same routine over and over and over again. I think it's normal to understand that there's certain types of pain that we don't have any control over that just happen to us, emotional pain, physical pain, and a lot of these same coping mechanisms that I mentioned, the escapism, the avoidance, the procrastination, the distraction, all that kind of stuff can apply to those too, but those can be really their own discussions in a way. What I'm talking about here is moments, everyday moments, life lessons, big moments, small moments, and those choices that we make to get outside our comfort zone. I think that when it comes to looking at the type of pain or growing pains associated with personal growth, they're kind of their own animal. And that's what I wanted to focus this particular discussion around. I think that while you sometimes need time to catch your breath, sort of metaphorically speaking, you need these bit of respite when you're on a personal growth path. Every single day, you're committing to a certain amount of discomfort when you are on a personal growth path. And I think that if you avoid discomfort, you're actually robbing yourself of these opportunities. But just know that it's normal to want to avoid them. It's normal to want those moments to go away. How you feel and experience those moments is normal. It's what you choose to do about it that's going to determine what you get out of those experiences, if anything. The question, I guess, becomes, do you want to grow or not? And if you're in a situation where you're constantly butting up against discomfort, you have an opportunity to ask yourself, I can keep butting up against this discomfort and I can keep pushing it away from my life. I can keep pretending it's not happening. I can keep avoiding it. But what happens if I don't? What happens if I instead face this discomfort head on? Sometimes these are truths that bubble up within us about ourselves. Sometimes these are truths that bubble up about our relationships. Sometimes these are small everyday things where you're faced with an uncomfortable situation and you want to just make it go away. You want to get defensive. You want to just be in the moment and like push it away from yourself. But instead, if you sat with it, if you let that moment in, could there be an opportunity for growth? And I'm not saying that every negative experience you have is because you need to learn something, but I think it's worth looking at when you're uncomfortable and seeing if there is an opportunity for growth, because a lot of times there is. So what are we really sort of resisting when we're resisting discomfort? What is it we're really pushing away? And the answer to that is super simple. Change. Anything that threatens our current status quo is going to feel uncomfortable, at least for most of us. Now, some people are like change thrill seekers and they're constantly looking for change and they're constantly hungry for change and they're seeking change. But I think for a lot of us, change is a threatening and scary thing. It can be something as simple as a job. You're in a job, it's the devil you know, even though it might be super uncomfortable and super toxic, there might be a lot of dysfunction everywhere around you, but you still recognize it's the devil you know. You understand how to navigate that territory, and so you avoid taking the leap to change, because what if the new situation you find yourself in is somehow worse? And so we avoid handling the situation we're in. We minimize our experiences. We tell ourselves it's not that bad, right? We can handle this, it's fine, because we're so resistant to change. Change is the biggest thing that we are pushing away when we are not sitting with discomfort. If it's a difficult conversation with somebody, it could be a fear of change to that relationship if this conversation goes past point A. If this is about a job, it's a fear of what if I find myself in a worse job. If this is a romantic relationship, you could be afraid that if you really let the discomfort of the moment in, it could mean acknowledging that this romantic relationship that you're in is no longer right for you, and you might be called to make a change. A lot of times we're avoiding truth, we're avoiding intuition, we're avoiding facing the things we don't want to face. I think it's also worth pointing out that when we're talking about personal growth discomfort, we're often afraid to lose something. And again, it still relates to change. There's a loss if our status quo changes. There's a loss if what we're used to changes. I'm the kind of person that I get really attached to routine. I like ritual. I like it when things are stable and are the same. But what I've noticed in my own life is that every time I get too comfortable with a routine, I lose touch with the deeper truth of my life. I start to lean into that routine so much that I actually miss out on those opportunities for even more meaningful experience. There's a very loud vehicle outside and I'm very sorry, but I'm just gonna keep pushing through. Very loud vehicle, very loud. Okay, so let's talk about the role of fear. Because at the end of the day, every single topic we're going to cover in Self-Worth Saturday, or that we have already covered, always boils down to fear. That is why at the end of these videos, the mantra I give you is I am worthy and I am unafraid. We are afraid that we are unlovable. We are afraid that we're unworthy. We are afraid to be lonely. We are afraid to be alone. We are afraid to be with ourselves. And with this topic, we are afraid to change. We are afraid to change. And when you think about it, change is terrifying. Think about as like a kid going to school for the first time. That could be exciting, yes. It can also be really scary. This is why a lot of kids cry and are like, Mom, don't leave me on my first day of school or our first day of school. It's why, when we're teenagers moving into adulthood, it's like we're faced with all of these things that we feel like we need to do, and it's all different than what we've always ever done. We need to figure out how to adult. We need to figure out what we're going to do for a living. We need to figure out how we're going to move through the world with transportation and driving, and we need to figure out dating and relationships. Like, are you kidding me? That's a lot to pile on somebody all in like one time period. So at the end of the day, it's important to notice where fear is playing a role when you're experiencing discomfort. Am I uncomfortable? Yes. What am I afraid of? And if you can ask yourself those questions in those moments, you will learn so much about yourself. Let me share some examples, or a couple of examples that come to mind. One that I experience kind of on an everyday sort of basis is around other people's negative emotions or less pleasant emotions. I am full of anxiety if somebody that I know and care about is angry at me, or I think they're angry at me, they're frustrated at me, or I think they're frustrated at me, they're disappointed in me. I have a lot of fear around these things because I have a fear about how my relationships in the past have unfolded. And because of those past experiences, I carry a lot of that fear. But at the end of the day, those moments where I'm faced with other people's maybe less comfortable emotion are often opportunities for me to recognize that something is shifting, something is changing, and I can change with it, and I can learn with it, and I can grow with it, or I can avoid it, pretend it's not happening, and possibly watch everything go under. You know what I mean? So an example, Peggy and I have this happen all the time. It's a small thing. She'll seem frustrated. Maybe she'll sigh, and I'll be like, what's wrong? And it's instant panic because I need to know what's happening so that I can fix it. And when I say fix it, I'm referring to the fix it mode that I talked about earlier in this video. Fix it mode is that moment of discomfort. She's frustrated or upset, and it could be at me. I'm uncomfortable, and now I want to make it go away. So I want to know what the problem is so that I can somehow say something that will make the entire thing go away. None of this is logical. That's not how people work, but I do it regularly. It's something I'm working on. So I'll say what's wrong. She'll tell me what's wrong because I did just ask. I jump into fix it mode and I try to explain away whatever it is she's experiencing by making sure she understands that whatever it is she's feeling that I did that annoyed her, I certainly didn't mean it. Therefore, it's not a problem. Do we see where the problem might be with that? Because I do. And it's an automatic thing I do that I have to actively work on. And it is a work in progress. I'm not going to tell you anything today that it's like a switch you just flip and everything's golden. That's not how any of this works. I think we all know that by now. But it's a hard thing for me to be in. But in that same moment, if she sighed and instead I allowed myself to just be a little uncomfortable for a second, let her have her emotion, not try to just make the discomfort go away, I could find out a couple things. I might find out that she wasn't annoyed with me at all and had nothing to do with me. I might not find out anything. She might not feel like it was important enough or a big enough deal to even bring it up. It might have just been her being cranky, having a moment that didn't really need to be discussed. And throughout the years of our marriage, as I've tried to practice this, I've learned that sometimes if I just sit with the discomfort, I'll find out that either A, it was no big deal, or B, there was something, and if I ask her and I actually listen and don't just try to make it go away, there was something that came up that we need to talk about so that we can grow together. When I sit with the discomfort, these are always moments that go well, and they're always moments that if there's an issue or if there's a problem that needs to be addressed, it gets addressed in a healthy and productive way, and nobody feels minimized and nobody walks away feeling like they're not allowed to have emotion when I do it well. So let me give you some other thoughts here. So sometimes what happens when we're avoiding discomfort is essentially we're not leaving space for possibility. In the example I just gave, when I hop on fix-it mode, I'm not allowing for the possibility for everything to be okay. I'm assuming something's bad and wrong and needs to be dealt with, when maybe that's not even the case. When we're talking about different kinds of possibility, or different kinds of discomfort, a lot of times when we're trying not to sit in that discomfort, we end up heading off possibilities of the past. Let's say somebody's about to offer you something and you sense that and you get uncomfortable because you don't want to be asked to do something that's outside of your normal rut or your normal comfort zone. So you sort of like head it off at the pass or you dodge it. This has happened to me in workplaces. I feel like I'm about to be asked to do something and I just suddenly have a reason why I'm real busy right now, because sometimes our intuition actually gets us into trouble. We sense something's coming up that we don't want to have to address and we sidestep it. One of the other things that happens when we're avoiding discomfort is we tend to shift the responsibility for our growth onto the people around us. We're not examining our own emotions or our own reactions or our own patterns when we're too busy procrastinating, avoiding, escaping, and denying that there are lessons around us, that there's discomfort to be addressed. And we end up sort of shifting that responsibility onto other people to have to sort of bring it right in front of us instead of noticing these things as they come up by sitting with the discomfort of them. Here's another example. So I receive an invitation to go to a gathering with a bunch of people I only loosely know. I'm immediately uncomfortable because I'm an introvert and I have like a little bit of social anxiety. And so the idea of going to an event full of people that I barely know is super scary and it's really, really uncomfortable. So maybe I instinctively on the Facebook event invite hit not going, and then I immediately distract myself by playing a game on my phone and forgetting it ever happened. Not that I've ever done that. Ever. So let's say this happens, but what if instead I had sat with a moment of that discomfort and I went, what am I afraid of? Asked myself the question, checked in with myself, and instead stepped outside my comfort zone and went to that event. Now, I've also done that. And when I've done that, I've often experienced really great experiences. I've built new connections, made new friends, had new experiences just by being willing to be a little bit uncomfortable. Getting outside of our comfort zone is uncomfortable. That's why it's called our comfort zone. But I think nearly all of our opportunities to do new things and experience more in life comes with an invitation to get outside our comfort zone. So here's some tips and tricks that I have found helpful. First, there's what I already said. Ask yourself what you're afraid of when you notice that you're uncomfortable. But most importantly, I would say, is to allow yourself to actually feel some discomfort and to know that it's completely okay to feel uncomfortable. You can always ask yourself, do I feel safe? And if the answer to that is yes, let yourself be in that position of discomfort. Let yourself process. Try to notice what you're experiencing. Last week's mindfulness tip helps here too. Notice that you're breathing. Notice the sounds around you. Just be in the moment for a minute and don't feel like you need to immediately act or react. Number 2, remember that discomfort is a teacher. Look for the lesson and ask yourself, what could I learn in this moment? What can this discomfort teach me? Number 3, when you do notice that you're uncomfortable, check in with your logical brain. I think I already said this. Ask yourself if you're safe. Yes. Yeah, so we already covered that. I just said things out of order. It's fine. I think checking in with yourself to make sure you feel safe in the very beginning is a smart order. So we're just going to reorder that in my notes later. Lastly, try to notice how long your discomfort lasts. Once you make a conscious decision to experience some discomfort, check in with yourself a little bit later. Are you still uncomfortable? And a little bit later than that, are you still uncomfortable? Chances are you'll find that that discomfort doesn't last very long at all. If you can begin to practice observing your discomfort, you might be able to, even just a little bit, befriend it. So here are a few journal prompts for you to play with if you like journaling in your practice. Number 1, in what ways do you escape, distract, avoid, or try to fix discomfort in your life? AKA, where does this show up for you? Because it's going to show up in different places for all of us. Number 2, do you notice any patterns or similarities in the types of discomfort that you find that you keep avoiding experiencing? And number 3, what is one thing you think your discomfort might be trying to teach you? So I'm gonna pull an oracle card this week from the Animal Kin Oracle. Look at these beautiful backs. Aren't they pretty? While I shuffle the cards though, let me give you our weekly challenge. So this week, try to pay attention to those moments that discomfort arises. Try to notice what your knee-jerk reaction is to discomfort and what's your go-to. So like, but what's your go-to? Like, what's your knee-jerk response to discomfort? What do you want to do first? Do you want to avoid, procrastinate? Do you want to fight? Do you want to push back? Do you want to ignore? Do you want to compartmentalize? Like, what do you want to do and why do you want to get away from it? Like, what's the method, right? So just try to notice when discomfort arises and then what it is that you first want to do to get away from that feeling. Then just see what happens. Just experiment this week. Just see what happens if you allow yourself to be uncomfortable for just a little bit. It doesn't have to be a long time. You can like go back to your avoidance or your procrastination and there's nothing wrong with that. Those are coping mechanisms, right? But see if you can experiment with just sitting in discomfort just a little bit more when those moments arise. Whether it's a tense conversation, whether it's an invitation to do something that's normally outside your comfort zone, whether it's an idea you have that you almost want to immediately dismiss because it's outside your comfort zone, like whatever it is, try to just sit with it. All right. And I'm going to just cut the deck. And our card is Frog, Healing. So Frog's message for us today is to focus on using this experience of noticing your discomfort, of noticing what your reaction is to that as a path for growth and healing. In my experience, the biggest moments, the biggest ahas, the biggest clue by fours, the biggest light bulbs of inspiration come when we just stretch our comfort a little bit, when we get a little bit outside of our comfort zone. I also noticed that this is the color green, which if you work with chakras at all, this is the heart chakra. So lean into a little bit of softening and a little bit of vulnerability as you explore discomfort in the coming week. And remember, first of all, and most importantly, always practice good self-care. You don't have to do anything you're uncomfortable with. You never have to stretch yourself beyond what feels right for you. And if at any point this practice or this video or anything else that you are working with isn't serving you, don't feel obligated. Turn it off, walk away, and do what you gotta do to feel okay in that moment. You can always choose to revisit that sort of stuff later. And as always, don't forget there are tons of resources around to help you navigate this stuff. I am just sharing from my own personal experience. Now, if you happen to be around and want to join Peggy and I for a live chat right after this video airs, then join us on my channel for that live chat. And in the meantime, remember to like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And say to yourself as often as possible, I am worthy and I am unafraid. Thanks, guys. Bye.